Russia, and 7th of August 2024. Hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers, supported by armoured vehicles, artillery and drones, invaded the Kursk region in the west of the country, very close to the border with Ukraine. Reports from the region described violent clashes between Ukrainian and Russian troops. This impressive cross-border incursion caught Russia completely by surprise. The border defences did not withstand the initial push, and within hours, the Ukrainians had captured several villages. Initially, Russia reacted with surprise and indignation, calling the operation a large-scale provocation and accusing the Ukrainians of indiscriminately attacking civilians and infrastructure. But as the days passed, it became increasingly clear that this was not a simple raid. The Ukrainian forces were advancing rapidly, taking villages and towns at an impressive rate. In just 24 hours, they had penetrated about 15 kilometers into Russian territory, overwhelming defenses that the Russians had been building for more than 2.5 years. To give an idea of the advance, there are reports that Ukrainian troops were within a proximity to Moscow, the Russian capital, equivalent to a 7-hour car journey. Russian military bloggers, usually a reliable source of information amidst the lack of official transparency, painted a grim picture. They reported intense fighting around Sudza and described the Ukrainians gaining ground, bringing in reinforcements and increasing the presence of equipment in the region. Sudza is a strategic region, as it is considered an important transit hub for Russian natural gas to Europe. The city houses an important pumping station that delivers Russian natural gas to Europe. But what are the real objectives behind this audacious incursion? Ukrainian authorities have largely remained silent, leaving the field open for theories. Some experts believe that Ukraine may be seeking to improve its position in future peace negotiations. Capturing the Sudza gas transfer station, as mentioned earlier, would create a buffer zone that could be used as a bargaining chip in future negotiations. Another possibility is that Ukraine is seeking to destabilize the Russian energy system, targeting facilities such as the Kursk nuclear plant. Others have pointed to a possible attempt to divert Russian forces from eastern Ukraine, where Moscow has been slowly advancing. By forcing the Russians to relocate their troops to Kursk, the Ukrainians would relieve pressure on their defensive lines in Donbass. We also cannot forget the propaganda effect of this feat. By invading a Russian city by surprise, Ukraine could make many Russian civilians rethink their opinion about the conflict. They also managed to project an image of strength and determination. But whatever the real purpose, one thing is certain. This incursion represents a significant setback for Vladimir Putin and his decades-long effort to project an image of stability and strength for Russia. As admitted by Russian state TV presenter Sergei Mardan, the situation in Kursk seemed chaotic, with the Ukrainians apparently controlling parts of Sudza, despite the lack of official confirmation. Impressed, he said, there are tanks, armoured vehicles, a colossal number of drones. Reactions in Moscow were swift and varied, ranging from attempts to downplay the seriousness of the situation to threats of escalating the conflict. Former President Dmitry Medvedev, as usual, toughened his rhetoric. He promised a ruthless response and suggested that the special military operation should adopt an open extraterritorial character, advancing into Ukraine towards cities like Odessa, Kharkiv, and even the capital Kyiv. On the other side of the border, Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhail Podolyak hinted that the objective was indeed to scare the Russians and worsen their perception of Putin, weakening his internal position. But then, what can we say about this? Could this bold maneuver not be risking any attempt to negotiate an end to this conflict? After all, the very idea of an attack on Russian soil seemed to cross a red line for many. Well, although this was the largest Ukrainian incursion on Russian soil since the beginning of the war, it was not the first. Pro-Ukrainian resistance groups had previously carried out raids in the border region of Belgorod. What is striking this time is the apparent involvement of regular Ukrainian forces, including their elite mechanized brigade and also the airborne brigade. And the most impressive thing? The Russians seem to have been totally surprised. According to military expert Matthew Saville from the Royal United Services Institute, this event made it clear that the Russians are not managing to bring together people, training and equipment in time for a counter-offensive. And it seems that Ukraine does not intend to stop there. President Zelensky has already confirmed that preparations are underway for a new counter-offensive, which could happen later this year. You see, this whole situation can be compared to a game of chess, where Ukraine's next moves will depend on the Russian reaction. Will Russia relocate troops from other fronts like Kharkiv or Donbass to contain the Ukrainian advance? Or will it opt for a different strategy? It's hard to say. But what we know is that this bold Ukrainian maneuver is testing the limits of the conflict in unexpected ways. In many ways, it has exposed weaknesses in the Russian defences along the border and forced Moscow to divert some of its forces from other sectors amidst preparations for a major Ukrainian counter-offensive. It also showed that despite Russia's overwhelming military might, the war remains unpredictable, with both sides still capable of surprising. As you can see, the war in Ukraine has entered a new and risky phase, testing the determination and capabilities of both sides. And all this while the world watches, tense, hoping that the flame of this conflict does not spread even further. And what do you think about this Ukrainian incursion? Do you think they are right to take such a high risk? And what about the risks of escalation? Leave your opinion in the comments. We love to read your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. And as always, thank you for watching.